So we just saw that when you submit a form, the client just goes and requests a web page, includes a bunch of key value pairs with that request, maybe in the HTTP header. Where do those key value pairs come from? The key is the what attribute inside the input tags? Yeah, go ahead and pause. Answer it to yourself. Okay, the key value pairs submitted by the client. The key comes from the name attribute of the input tag, and the value comes from, well, I said the value came from what the user typed in, although with checkboxes, the user doesn't really type in a value, it's just sort of checked or not. And in fact, this is one of the things that really strikes me counterintuitive is checkboxes. I figured, that attribute, the key value pair, the key, and will either be associated with true or false depending on whether or not that checkbox was checked. That would make sense to me. I know Booleans. I've been working with them since first learning programming. It's not quite how it works. Let's go again and look at our example. We fill in this form. What is your request? Happiness. What is your favorite color? By the way, if you noticed last time, I put in orange, and not only did it pair it back orange, but it made the next paragraph orange. How did we do that? Oh, no problem. The form was just printing HTML, and it happened to print HTML that says style equal tick mark color colon, and then the next thing it printed was whatever it got out of the post array under favorite color. So, okay, you might think about what happens if I put in something that's not a color here. Tomato. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and click this checkbox here. Make it so. Wait a minute. I am glad you're. Oh, yeah. Turns out tomato is a valid web color, but you can see the code that generated this. Hey, we printed a p tag. Inside that p tag, we printed, well, style equal tick mark color colon space. Then we went ahead and printed underscore post a favorite color. Then we resumed. We were like, okay, let's see, style equal tick mark color colon tomato semicolon tick mark, close off that style attribute, then close off the p tag. Okay, so that's, again, we have to print, but we have to print exactly the right thing to get the, make sure this works. And if I do a view source, you can actually see that, hey, this is what this got printed as, angle bracket p, style equal color, colon, tomato. Okay, I'm sorry, where were we? I was saying, hey, what happens if we'd provided something that wasn't a valid color? Let's go back and look. I'm gonna go back to the form and put in, so tomato didn't work. That, by dumb luck, is a standard web color. Okay, let's try a papaya whip, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and click that. Oh, wow, man, papaya whip seems to be a very faint pale color. Okay, okay. Let's go ahead and definitely put in something that's not a color. Nay. There we are. Okay. I'm got printed as black. Well, in some sense, the server did not care. The server went ahead and printed style color colon nay. If that had not been valid CSS, maybe we kind of had a problem there. Certainly, even as valid syntactic CSS, it's not a valid color. So my browser, I think, chose to ignore this style attribute and instead used black or the default or whatever it was before. Okay, so great. So we can fill in text things. By the way, what happens if I leave this entirely empty? Okay, well, let's look at that, and then we'll come back to this checkmark issue, checkbox. If I leave it entirely empty, like you might expect, there is inside the array underscore post, there is a key called favorite color, and it is a string with length 0, it's the empty string. And, I guess, hey, what did I have? Me as the user, what did I fill out in that input thing? Well, I left 0 characters in there. So 0 characters, the string containing 0 characters. By the way, the empty string is not nothing. The empty string is a string. It's a string containing no characters. That's different than void or nothingness. So you might want to think of, imagine a website where you don't have to have a password, but you can have a password. And now I want to distinguish between somebody who doesn't have a password versus somebody who has a password, but they set their password to be the empty string. Yeah, those are conceptually 2 slightly different things there. So, okay. And I'd probably need to represent them in different ways. I couldn't use the empty string to represent both of those. I'd probably use the empty string to represent, or a string to represent a password that existed, and false to represent somebody who didn't have a password. So, okay. Or I might use null if my language didn't let me store false in the same variable that might hold a string as well. Okay, so I filled in nothing at all. I got a empty string there. That checkbox had the name is happy, and the value that I came back with was yep. Where did that come from? Let's go back to the form, do a show source. Where's the checkbox? Input type equal checkbox, name equal is happy. That's why that was the key of the key value pair. Value equals yep. Okay, we have a key value pair. The key came from the name attribute, just like before. The value came from value equal yep. Okay, it turns out I need a value tag in there. I wish checkboxes were just true or false. That's not how they work. You say value equal yep, and that's the value if it was in the array. So now, what if they don't check that checkbox? Okay, so we're going to leave this blank. It will be the empty string. If you're happy and you know it, click the checkbox. I'm going to leave that checkbox unclicked. And now let's look at this post array we get. Quest equal happiness, favorite color is the empty string. Wait a minute. Is happy isn't even in the post array. I thought it would be there, but it might be false or the empty string or something. I don't know quite what I was thinking of, but I thought is happy would be there with something, with false. No. Here's what my browser did, what Chrome did. I filled out a form, you had a checkbox that wasn't even checked. Hey, as I'm putting stuff in, sending the request over to the server and putting these key value pairs together, a checkbox that's not checked isn't even going to go in there. There is going to be no key value pair at all for it. Okay. Okay. Again, I wish checkboxes were always there with true or false. That makes a lot of sense to me. I guess I can sort of see a rationale if you had a page with 500 checkboxes on it, and most of them were not checked. Yeah, when you make a web request, your HTTP packet's going to be really big because it's going to be filled with all these something equal false, something equal false, something equal false, if we included checkboxes that weren't checked. So, okay, we'll make it easier. We'll only include checkboxes that are checked. I guess that's the rationale. Okay. Which leads to a problem. What did we do with, oh, hey, what a coincidence. I love Blink 2. And usually that said orange or tomato or something. What got spliced there? Oh, my PHP code said I love, echo I love, and then echo underscore post of favorite color, which was the empty string, and that worked just fine. Now, wait a minute. What if I try looking up the key is happy inside post? This time it's going to fail because they didn't check that checkbox. So I can't just go and look up that attribute. I'll be looking up an attribute that doesn't exist. And if I have turned on error reporting, it is an error to look up a element of an array that does not exist. That will give you an error. And I don't want that. And I don't want to turn off error report. If I did turn off error reporting, then it would be fine. I could look up that key. It would come back as null, which is what you get back if you try to look up a key that doesn't exist. And so originally, the original PHP people said, oh yeah, we don't have error reporting. Who would want that? Just look up that key for the checkbox, and if you get back null, you know that it wasn't checked. Well, we have error reporting turned on. So, gosh. So what do we do? Let's go look at the source code here. If array key exists, this is going to be PHP for how do we defensively check to see that a key is in the array before we try grabbing it from the array. Text inputs are always going to be there. They will be at least the empty string, if not more. But checkboxes are either there with the value from the form or they're not there at all. Okay, so, and I even have a note there that's saying if the key is happy is in the array at all, its value will be yep coming from the form. But I don't know that it's there, which is why I need to say if array key exists and have an if statement here. Okay, and that's how we got echo, I'm glad you think you're happy, or it's odd that you're happy and don't know it. Okay, so that goes ahead and explains now how we're going to grab checkboxes out of the array. We need to use this array key exists. Okay, it's an extra hoop we step through. You're right, we wouldn't need it if we turned off error checking. Don't turn off error checking. You will hate yourself for it later. Future you will be very upset with you. So don't make future you upset. Okay, and then I think the last thing I'm going to talk about is saying we have key value pairs. The key comes from the name attribute. Value comes from either the text that was put in by the user, or in the case of a checkbox, the value is the value attribute inside that tag. Okay, so checkboxes, you actually provided value equal whatever. And radio buttons are going to be the last thing that I mentioned. Here we go ahead and going to have an input value. Actually, no, let me come back to that. This is big enough. I'm going to come back to radio buttons in the next video. But I'll leave you with one last thought. What about, so an input tag can have a value attribute, okay? So we saw that with the checkboxes. You can have value equal milk. If you have a text field, you don't need a value attribute. The value will come from whatever the user types in the field. What if you do include a value attribute for a text field? It turns out if you include a value attribute, that will be the initial value of that input device. It'll be the text that is sitting in the box when you first get the page. Okay, so if you want to have a text box that is pre-filled out, and we're going to talk about sticky forms later, but the answer is simple, just have an input type equal text, value equal blah, blah, blah. It will start as blah, 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 and if the user types something else into the text field, that will change the value, and when the browser submits, it will use whatever the most recent value is for that field. So, okay, there's a few other types of input fields. There's input type equal text, input type equal checkbox, input type equal number. Numbers are kind of interesting. You have numbers with different attributes going on. In fact, we can have numeric fields, and we can give it a min value and a max value, okay? And in fact, I can go to this button, and because it's an input type equal number, my browser knows to put these little up arrows and down arrows. And when I started going up, it went to 21, 22, 23, 24, okay? And if I try going too high, it won't let me go past 30, and it won't go past or below 21. And if I try entering 45, oh, interesting, it'll let me enter it. I could tab away. I thought it wouldn't even let me enter it. Who's deciding all this? Chrome, the browser. This has nothing to do with the server yet. Eventually, information is going to get submitted to the server, but it's going to be the browser that decides what key value pairs to submit. Different browsers might do things slightly differently. Okay, we'll come back next time and talk about radio buttons and the slight twist they are. It's not much of one.